Today, we present our big announcement for Morning Kick Round. Will Miami be punished for Sunday's display? And Matt Crocker still trying to figure out U.S. youth soccer system. That and more on Wednesday's Morning Kick Round. Hello and welcome to the show. You found your way to Morning Kick Round, where we cover the world's favorite game from the United States of America, coming to you live each Monday, Wednesday, and Friday here on YouTube and on demand whenever you'd like. My name is Robert Kerr, local soccer commentator and host of the show. Wonderful to be joined once again after a holiday weekend by the one and only Jason Davis. How you doing, sir?
I'm glad that we're back. Monday off was nice, I guess, but I missed you, Rob, and I missed soccer, or I missed talking about it. Of course, I was watching a bunch of things happening, trying to recover from a very wild. My teams all lost. It was all bad. Even in American football, we lost all the games that I cared about. But we did have a lot to talk about. So let's catch up. Let's do this.
Yeah, after the weekend it was hard not to have a show on Monday. I agree with that. And before we get going, subscribe, become a channel member, do all those things that we say each and every episode. Help support the program, word of mouth, clicking buttons on here. Everything is very appreciated. And thanks to everyone who's thinking about supporting the show further. But because we missed on Monday and there's a lot to get to, let's get right into it. Our first segment as we start our shows. Let's start with long balls here on Wednesday's Morning Kick Around. Welcome in. These are the long balls. This is how we start Morning Kick Around. I'm Robert. He's Jason. And big announcement for Morning Kick Around. We are going to be live on location in Albuquerque, New Mexico for the 6th edition of Meow Wolf Night at Isotopes Park in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Huge thanks to Ron Patel and New Mexico United for having us come out for one of the most unique events in American soccer and one of the biggest nights for the club.
Huge opportunity for us. And yeah, awesome to be on our way to Albuquerque for that match on September 13th. You can see it right there on the screen. We've got Peter Trevisani, the owner of New Mexico United, set to come on the show. Very excited to talk to him. We're going to give you all the color, all the vibrancy, all the energy that is happening around Isotopes Park for Meow Wolf Night. If you don't know about Meow Wolf Night, go look it up. Go find something that will give you a little bit of an education on Meow Wolf Night, because it is a wild time. In fact, I do have one image that I'll share. We don't have a lot of this. This is a good encapsulation. Shout out to our man over there on Blue Sky today. Nicholas Murray from USL, who shared this when we made our announcement. He shared this image. Kings of Chaos. Look at the colors. Look at the costumes. Look at it. This is so unique. This is such a cool thing that they do out there for Meow Wolf Night. And of course, unveiling the new jersey. I'm wearing one right now, right? But I believe there's a new one coming. You've got a New Mexico United thing over there. You got something? You got something to show off? That's not the Meow Wolf version, but that is a New Mexico United shirt. And so, we're excited. It's going to be great. I think I even talked about this on Blue Sky a little bit, Rob. It's almost like we get to do a little bit of what College Game Day does. Now, obviously, we're not ESPN. We don't have trucks.
We don't have our sticks producers and 20 cameras. No. What are you talking about?
No, and I don't think I'm going to be putting on any mascot heads. I wouldn't want to steal Lee Corso's bit, but I do think that this is an opportunity. Like there have been sort of travel log shows and videos that people have done around American soccer. And look, there's a lot of YouTube content. I think DeBronco is going out all over the place and checking out various American soccer culture. I shout out to Caitlin Carr, who was doing this for MLS at one point and has some videos. I was just watching one of it he did for Charlotte not that long ago on their culture and their tailgating and the music and everything. but this is going to be on the scene the day of the biggest event on the New Mexico United calendar. That is sort of, it's obviously a game. FC Tulsa's in town, by the way, to play New Mexico that night. But this is the celebration of what the culture of New Mexico is, of what it is to be in that part of the world and to be a soccer fan. And I'm so excited for this. I'm so pumped up for this.
Yeah, this is going to be absolutely awesome. I can't wait. Like, to your point, we get to kind of do a bit of a travel log sort of a thing, but the plan as of now, we are going to be there on site on Friday and do our show as per normal, maybe delayed a little bit due to the time change. So we'll be there out
We'll
there
let you know.
a little bit later on Friday morning. But the big event, we will be doing a live show, a pre-game show, 5:30 until kickoff Mountain Time. We're going to be featuring as much of the festivities as we can, as much as possible. They're going to have us setting up, I think, on the third base line, welcoming everyone in as they come into Isotopes Park. And if you guys aren't super familiar with the festivities out there, it's going to be kind of an all-afternoon affair. Starting at 3:30, there's going to be the Costume Creature Disco Tailgate Party kicking off right there by the stadium. So there's a costume contest, a celebration, a mini pitch for people to play, face painting, caricatures. Apparently there is something called the Sky Worm balloon. So lots of stuff for us to discover. I can't wait to present this to our audience. But yeah, live on location, morning kick around. This should be pretty exciting. I can't wait to see all this.
I've gotten out with the radio to do live stuff before, but maybe nothing exactly like this. And certainly the live stream with the cameras on us, with the owner of the club coming by. I think we're going to try to get some other interviews, maybe pre-record some things. So it's going to be an opportunity again to put a spotlight on a particular part of American soccer culture, which is so varied and so rich. It's a tapestry or whatever, however you want to describe it. And I think this is maybe also an opportunity to sort of test out this approach. And, not that we're necessarily sure what's going to happen next, but you guys all share that this is going down, right? Especially those of you who care very much about lower division soccer in America, those of you that are paying attention to the USL, like whether you like New Mexico United or not, whether this is your club or not, if you share this and let people know that we're going and we can get a big response and we can get more people to know what's happening there and get more people on board with Morning Kick Around, the more opportunities we will have to do this. I mean, we just talked to the director of the documentary Up the Hearts last week, Kurt Grazer. He's like, you guys got to do your show from Portland. I'm like, that would be amazing. Let's see if we can become this show that travels the country and documents these particular parts of American soccer culture. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it's really going to be a fusing and a meeting of art, culture, and sport, which is fantastic. We don't necessarily want to be in our just segmented parts of our lives, but it seems like Meow Wolf really bridges that gap between the community that the team is serving, just art in general, eccentricity, and then fusing that with a game of soccer.
American soccer is weird. Embrace that. Embrace that American soccer is weird, right? We can have our own unique soccer culture, and not only that, can we have our own sort of national unique soccer culture. We could have our unique soccer culture in individual locations like Albuquerque, New Mexico, like Portland, Maine, like, I don't know, all kinds of places. Like, it doesn't matter. We can do what we can build something that is purely organic and natural to who we are. And I think that this is a good example of that.
Yeah, so the Friday night, we get to be there for the reveal party. That's going to be exciting. And then spend the day out there in Albuquerque, meet hopefully as many people as we can. If you are a supporters group member, if you are a Meow Wolf veteran, we'd love to talk to as many people as we can when we're out there. And in the feature, the keystone part of the whole trip, obviously live pregame from the Meow Wolf night at Isotopes Park on September 13th. That's so not too long away.
It is not. We got to get ready. Your marching orders are to go and spread the word. Please, please,
Oh yeah.
please take that graphic. I posted on my Blue Sky account at Davis Jason. We'll try to throw it up in various other places as well. Grab the graphic, retweet the graphic, share the graphic, post the graphic, tell your friends, Reddit the graphic, whatever. Just let people know that this is a thing because we can make it something truly special. Shout out to Christian. Official state question of New Mexico, red or green. Now he gives it away with the emoji. I do know that New Mexico is the chili capital of the world. I've actually watched documentaries on how they grow chilies in New Mexico. So I don't know that I have an answer. I don't know. It's my personal answer. I don't know. It does. Yeah, it says right there, Chile. There you go. So yeah, gonna be great. Gonna be great. So very excited for this.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be our first time in the flesh getting to meet each other too. Morning kick around on the
Here's
scene
what I'm
together.
worried about. Here's what I'm worried about. How tall are you, Rob?
I'm 6'4".
Okay. Rob is going to dwarf me. This is what I was afraid of. Dwarfing me is part of this equation. If you guys want to see, I don't know how many stand-ups we'll do. Maybe I'll be like, guys, I got to get a booster seat because I cannot be that much shorter than Rob. I'm 5'10". I don't feel like a short person, but 6'4", that's real tall. So yeah, we're going to have a thing. We're going to have a thing with that.
I'll work on my slouching so that when we're close,
slouch. Never slouch.
We can even it out. But yeah, one more time. September 13th, morning kick around live on location for Meow Wolf Night at New Mexico United's Isotopes Park. Can't wait to be there live on location. Morning kick around, getting about the country. Can't wait for that. And there'll be more throughout the week and next week as we build up to September 13th night out in New Mexico. Moving on to long ball number 2 today. Leagues Cup done and dusted. Seattle Sounders win the Leagues Cup 3-0 in front of a huge crowd at Lumen Park out there in Seattle. A reported 69,000 plus filling it.
Yeah.
And just through the television, the excitement, the atmosphere was palpable for this one.
I mean, I thought, it was funny because I watched that game and then I checked in on the Galaxy in Orlando playing a third place match. Angelinos were not enthusiastic about a third place match in the Leagues Cup. They weren't really out there to watch the Galaxy book their place in the CONCACAF Champions Cup by beating Orlando City, which is a thing. But Seattleites, they were there in numbers. And I saw some pink jerseys, and there were definitely some Messi fans in the building. But that was a night for soccer in Seattle. And it was a great scene before we had some extracurriculars. It was a great scene and a great performance by the Sounders, who are doing this without a number of important players, without Jordan Morris, without Paul Arriola, who's been out for most of the year. Like, this is a team that has figured out how to be one of the best teams in Major League Soccer, despite missing some key pieces. And they took it to Miami. This was not a fluky win. Now, Miami missed some chances. Lionel Messi fluffed his lines and missed a chance that really you would have expected him to put away. But I think it's fair to say the Sounders were the better team on the day, Rob. And while this is a secondary competition, it does, of course, bring them a trophy, which they lifted, get them into the CONCACAF Champions Cup, which they definitely want to be in because they're the Seattle Sounders and they have that history. And we're talking about a competition, though, that a lot of people have cynical feelings about because of the money, because of those things. And I've seen some two sides of the coin on this. Attendance wasn't great throughout the tournament, but per Toodle Ramen on Blue Sky, these games, especially I think the knockout phase games, drew as well as any MLS Cup final draws for television viewers. So you can see why they're doing this. Even if you don't agree with it, you can see why they're doing this. But this was obviously for Seattle an important match, an important opportunity. And again, what I was trying to get to is I think it really does declare the Sounders as, if not MLS Cup favorites right now, because shout out to Philly, shout out to Cincinnati, shout out to Miami, who's still in this, depending on what happens with the extracurricular stuff. But man, Seattle is good. Seattle's very good, and Brian Schmetzer is very good.
Yeah, Seattle doing the Seattle things, starting off slow, looking like underperformers in the first third of the season. And then just Schmetzer, I actually want to talk about Schmetzer. Like, where does this put him in the pantheon? Because he seems to, of a pantheon of American coaches, because part of what was accomplished in that Seattle win is he has won with the Sounders, because those two go hand in hand. He's won every single trophy that has been offered to him.
Yep.
So you were probably more in the mix in this when there was a coach search at the national team level. Does his name ever get bandied about in those conversations, or is he just so inextricably linked to the Seattle Sounders that he wasn't really in the consideration from what you can tell?
I don't think he's ever been seriously considered. I'm not saying he hasn't gotten a phone call or that his representation hasn't gotten a phone call about his interest, gauging his interest. I think if you are looking for a coach, no matter what organization you are running, you kick the tires on a lot of things, including these rumors that keep popping up about Mauricio Pochettino maybe considering a job in England. I think that's just whatever, if Manchester United might be looking for a replacement for Ruben Amorim, they're going to call Pochettino's people and say, hey, would Pochettino be interested? Just so they have a list when they get to that point of, oh, we're firing Ruben. Who are we going to call? Oh, well, that guy said he's not interested. Don't even bother with him, right? That they need to know where to put their efforts, because otherwise you're just wasting your time. So I imagine that Brian Schmetzer might have gotten a call at some point, but I don't think it's ever been seriously considered that Brian Schmetzer become the head coach of the U.S. men's national team. And I think that's unfortunate. But I don't know that that's how we should gauge this. I do think that for a long time, becoming the U.S. men's national team head coach was the pinnacle of American soccer coaching, right? That was the mountaintop. It shouldn't be that, right? We should be pushing for American coaches to not only succeed in MLS and MLS to grow in prestige, so that being in MLS is not a bad thing, and staying in that job despite maybe interest from the national team is not a bad thing, but also for American coaches to maybe leave American environments and go somewhere else and ply their trade abroad. I don't think Schmetzer has any interest in that, because he is, as Wade says, a Seattle lifer, right? He played for the Seattle Sounders before they were the Seattle Sounders, right?
That's wild.
He's played indoor soccer in Seattle, if I'm remembering my history correctly. Like, this is a guy who was Seattle through and through. I respect him. I think he's a great coach, but I think he is maybe specific to his environment. Like, I think maybe Brian Schmetzer is specific to Seattle, and you do wonder that if you took him out of Seattle, would it be the same? I don't know. Sometimes we can just say, great coach in that situation. Now, the other part of the Brian Schmetzer conversation is one I saw Matt Doyle engaged with on Blue Sky yesterday, a whole debate about whether Brian Schmetzer should be coach of the year and why he hasn't won a coach of the year already in Major League Soccer.
Never has?
Never has. And
wow.
I think I think that like, you could sort of, like, without looking at the individual seasons and comparing the competition, you could be like, well, that doesn't seem right. That's unfair to Brian Schmetzer. That means he's disrespected. But if you look at individual seasons, I don't think you can argue he didn't get beaten out by somebody who maybe deserved it as much or more than he did. And of course, these are subjective voting situations. The people who are voting on these awards, there's not like, well, how many points did he get? If he got past this number, he wins no matter what. Like, largely it goes to the coach of the team who achieves the most, but that's not universal. And as you said, Seattle tends to start slow. There are plenty of years where Seattle doesn't get going until midsummer, late summer. Maybe they make a push to the MLS Cup playoffs, but that's not guaranteed. They have a couple of trophies, a couple of MLS Cup trophies under Schmetzer. You could take out individual moments from those runs and ask questions about Schmetzer's leadership and all those things. What I'm saying is I respect the man immensely, but I don't know that means we need to elevate him to something like MLS coaching Mount Rushmore or the U.S. men's national team job.
I took us down a bit of a tangent talking Schmetzer and his ceiling, but the original note you were talking about was, is this making Seattle an MLS Cup favorite with them rounding into this good of form? And if they did go on to have a great postseason run and get to the MLS Cup final, this might actually become one of it definitely would be a cliche breaker. They had a deep run at the beginning. Remember back in early spring when they went deep in the CONCACAF Champions Cup? They did well there. They went into and had a respectable performance in the Club World Cup. And then if they're able to get themselves and then they obviously won Leagues Cup, getting a positive run and maybe even making the MLS Cup final, is that one of the busiest / most expectation breaking seasons?
I mean, I was high on the Sounders when the season began, but I also was considering Morris and Arriola probably contributing for most of the year, and that's obviously been part of the deal. Rusnak missed a bunch of time. You just didn't know how they were going to fill those gaps. The fact that Osei's Divasario is a major contributor now, that Paul Rothrock has stepped in to a significant role for this team, that those things you can't really predict, and they're a credit to Schmetzer and the coaching staff there in Seattle for getting those guys coached up to that level. Yeah, considering the things they've had to play for, like the number of competitions that they've been in and all the things that have been going on. Yeah, I mean, when all is said and done, if they are MLS Cup champions, we may look back and say, well, that was maybe the not the greatest MLS season of all time, because that's judged differently perhaps, but it will be one of the greatest sort of holistic American soccer seasons we've ever seen if they win a couple of different trophies and have navigated this path through these various competitions.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what their match total for the year of 2025 will be by that time it's all done, with so many deep runs and extra competitions for them. But to round it out, Seattle Sounders, Leagues Cup champions, 3-0 win over Inter Miami. We'll talk a little bit later in the show about the post-game festivities that went down there in Seattle. Plenty to mull over there. But the final long ball here on Wednesday morning. How about the whispers of a new team in a potentially already very crowded region and market of American soccer? We just saw a graphic for a new team coming in the Dallas area. Collin County.
This?
There is a new team in town. It's a bit mysterious here.
Do we know? Yeah, this. So you said that you were tipped off to this by the owner of Oakland County, that club that you work for, the USL2 club that you work for up there in Michigan. And I had not heard of this. This is Collin County, Texas. So this is all that's up there on their Instagram right now. I think this is their total presence. Am I wrong about that? Is this their total presence? Just their Instagram account, Pro Soccer Collin County, one post, which is just it says here's a new team in town. I didn't pull the post, but you can kind of see it there. 99 followers as of this morning. Like, this is very, very recent. And then there's a Google Doc. There's a link to a Google Doc, which is a fan survey. I clicked it. It's a fan survey. So they're trying to get some demographic information on the people who might be interested in this. Here is the location of Collin County in Texas. So you can see it's part of the Metroplex, because down there to the south is Dallas. So Garland is just outside of Dallas there. We've talked about Atletico Dallas, which was going to play in Garland, but now has booked a deal to play at the Cotton Bowl, the historic Cotton Bowl there in Dallas. So they'll be more centrally located as a Dallas team, as I suppose you could say, a competitor to FC Dallas. Like, let's not pretend. I know USL keeps saying we're not really trying to compete with MLS when it comes to first division soccer and those kind of things, but you're still going after a certain subset of sports fans in the Metroplex if you have a pro soccer team. So we know, here's what we know. Frisco, which you can see there on the edge of Collin County, which straddles the border between Collin County and Denton County. Frisco is where FC Dallas is located, north of the city. McKinney is where there is located a USL2 team called the Chupacabras, which averaged, what was that number, Rob? They averaged 3,500 fans over 6 games this summer. I think something like that.
It was definitely an impressive, at least a 4-figure number. Yeah.
And we talked to Michael Hitchcock about this, because that's one of his clubs that he's working on, invested in. And so this Collin County announcement, or whatever you want to call this, teaser, has no identifying information. It doesn't say McKinney, although, well, it does. It references McKinney in sort of a general sense, right? Because Plano's also in this county. So you got Plano, you got McKinney, you got these towns. Do we believe, and this is purely speculation on my part, and we can reach out to various people, do we believe that this is related to the McKinney Chupacabras? And if not, what does that mean for the Chupacabras, that there could be a pro soccer team coming to Collin County?
It's certainly becoming a crowded marketplace there in this region. Apparently the soccer folks in mind, apparently thinking that maybe FC Dallas not addressing the entirety of the soccer community and maybe spotting a soft spot in the soccer. Hate to use the word space in that region. Atletico Dallas starting in 2027, but this trying to beat Atletico Dallas to the punch by look of it, saying kicking off in 2026.
Yeah. This is very quick. This turnaround is super quick. We have no name. We have no identifying marks. We don't know stadium. Although here Matt is saying that a map he saw, I would love to see that map, Matt, showed Princeton marked for USL. You can see Princeton on the map here, just to the east of McKinney, down what looks like Route 380. And not a geographic expert on the Metroplex, so my apologies if I'm getting into this wrong. And as far as I can tell, I mean, where would they play? Maybe Matt knows. Where would they play? There's a high school football stadium in Princeton, Texas. As you could imagine, it's Texas. It looks like a pretty standard high school football stadium. Would that be a proper place for pro soccer, and at what level? Again, like, are we talking about, is this an MLS Next Pro independent team, or is it a USL 1 team? What level is kind of the, and I hate to say this, but, and so Crispy Dew giving us some data here too. Collin County, 1.2 million people. You would expect it to be able to support a team that wants to drive 5,000 or 6,000 people per match, 15, 16, 17 times a year. You hope, if you market it right. But I guess what I'm saying is, even if there are enough people to support these teams, does it feel a little bubbly? And does it feel like a little bit too much in? So if you've got FC Dallas, which is pre-existing and again, maybe ripe for picking off some fans, fine. You've got Atletico Dallas playing in Dallas at the Cotton Bowl, which may not be a hike that some people from the northern suburbs want to make. I think that's maybe a fair thing. We've got soccer in Fort Worth. I know that's out there somewhere. We've got this. We've got McKinney Cupacha. I'm going to butcher that. Chupacabras. That is a USL 2 team, I get. But we've seen USL 2 teams become very successful, start to drive serious interest. We've talked about whether or not those teams need to go pro when they are at 5, 6, 7, 8, 10,000 people per match, or can they go pro? This happened with Annapolis. I think it's happening with McKinney as well. So I don't know, like that is, there are questions here. I'm not saying I don't want these teams to start. I just want them to do it the right way, because we don't need clubs that are going to be here for a season or 2 or 3 and then disappear from the map. Dot the map, as Andy said, is the right way to go. Right? I want to dot the map, but I don't want to dot the map with clubs that only last a couple seasons.
Yeah, I was going to say, we dotting this map with pencil or pen here. I mean, some of these could be easily erasable, and we don't want them to be. Start the right way, as you're saying. The Atletico Dallas, if you guys recall, you could look back through in the Morning Kick Round channel videos. We did talk to the guys from Atletico Dallas, and great conversation. They seem to have a really good business model behind them, really cool art and logos and stuff, and they gave themselves a huge runway at 2027, and they've been talking about it for quite some time, like a 2-year runway, perhaps opening the door to someone moving quicker here in this area, for better or worse, but we shall see how that plays out, and we will keep our ear to the ground for any developments here. But yeah, this Collin County thing popping up on the USL Pro Reddit, a lot of speculation on that thread, whether it has to do with McKinney or not, but lots of speculation at this time. But soccer wars are definitely on. We talked last week about Cleveland, lots of different parties trying to get on Cleveland. It looks to be similar to the same sort of situation going on in the Dallas area.
By the way,
Grove, what you got going on here?
I want to address this. Riverside Grove, Jason's fear of failing club comes out again. It's okay for the bad to fail so the good can thrive. Let the marketplace do its job. I appreciate that. And if we're talking about any other business, any other industry, yeah, I'm pretty much on board with that. Like, I'm, whatever my political views, I'm enough of an American to understand that capitalism has its place, and those markets can generate good when businesses fail, like the cream rises to the top, right? That's a thing. I just don't know if that's good for soccer, because of soccer's place in American culture. And maybe we're past that. Like, maybe we're done with this problem of Americans don't appreciate soccer, therefore clubs dying. just kind of makes it harder for soccer to thrive. Maybe I'm wrong. Or maybe I have some PTSD from 20 years ago when I started doing this job. And, they talk about Cleveland. Like at one point in my life, I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to become a Cleveland Stars fan because that seems like a cool thing. Do the Cleveland Stars exist, Rob? They don't exist.
I'm not aware of them at this point.
Yeah, it's just that kind of thing. If you live through clubs coming and going, it starts to become a question. And I'm sticking around because I'm a soccer fan, but it does create, a cynicism I don't think is healthy. That's all I'm saying. So there it is. Thank you for the comment, though, Riverside.
All right. In the meantime, while we see this develop, we'll get you a comfort blanket so that your fear of clubs dying is abated in the meantime, Mr. Davis. But before we move on to the big question of the day, if you're watching this and haven't hit subscribe yet, do so now. Doesn't cost you a darn thing. Helps us out tremendously on the program to grow. If you'd like to kick your support up a notch, you can hit the thanks button and make a donation here on the spot. Just a little box under the video window, or become a channel member, become an MK Ultra and support this program. $3.99 a month gets you priority access to videos, gets you priority commenting on these live streams, and gets you access to the Morning Kick Around Discord server, where lots of great conversations from local to USL, MLS Pro Rel, and many more threads of conversations, all related to soccer and the United States version of it on the Morning Kick Around Discord server. And becoming an MK Ultra gets you in there. You can also support us on coffee.com/morning kick around. We have some specific fundraising goals, including an on-location trip, which doesn't have anything to do with our Albuquerque trip. So that's a whole separate thing. This New Mexico jumping the line, bringing us out there. If you didn't join us early enough, September 13th, we're going to Albuquerque, New Mexico for New Mexico United's Meow Wolf Night. We're going to be out there doing a whole pregame show, going to spend the weekend out doing some great stuff. Myself, Jason Davis, will be joined by the owner of the club, and we'll be welcoming all sorts of guests from, people in the costume contest for Meow Wolf. Hopefully we'll get the creator of Meow Wolf or a representative of that and get kind of some deep down insights into what Meow Wolf does, and what the connection to New Mexico United is, and hopefully have a whole lot of fun. So join us there. Support us in any of our endeavors here on Morning Kicker. And we thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who's gotten in on the ground level to support this show. All right, we'll move right along. Big question coming up here on Morning Kicker. This is the big question on Wednesday's edition of Morning Kicker. I'm Robert. He's Jason. Earlier in the show, we talked about Seattle's victory over Inter Miami, winning the Leagues Cup 2025. Following that victory, immediately, as soon as the whistle blew, a whole different set of circumstances set in as Suarez, Busquets, and other Inter Miami players headlocked, punched, pushed, pulled, spat, and all sorts of bad behavior went down. And basically, the big question, will Suarez and co be banned? And who's going to be laying out that punishment here? Will it be Leagues Cup? Will it be MLS? What is to come for punishing this poor behavior on Sunday night?
Well, okay, so we're going to give you the visuals here, catch you up if you haven't seen this, which I'm sure you have if you're a soccer fan. But let's relive it because there's some stuff here. But I do want to point out that typically MLS disciplinary committee decisions come down on Thursdays. Now we're here talking on Wednesday. So we're a day out from the usual drop of decisions by the disciplinary committee from games that happen in Major League Soccer. This game did not happen officially in Major League Soccer. It happened in the Leagues Cup, which leads us to a question of whether or not the MLS disciplinary committee will have anything to say about it. Probably not. However, it will definitely be on the desk of Don Garber. It can go up a level to Don Garber. Now, I'll show you what applies in this case to Luis Suarez. But first, let's relive the drama, the insanity that was that Sunday night in Seattle. Here is Well, let me get that off the screen. Let me put this one back up. Here is the video of the actual post-match brawl. This is from the press box. I grabbed this from Blue Sky, and you can see that Luis Suarez is right there in the middle of it. Whole lot of stuff is going on. The Falcone there being restrained and fighting. And look, it's just a mess, right? Look, we got a full-on takedown there from a Seattle reserve of a Miami player. It's ugly. Now this is this is enough for bans, for suspension, for fines, right? Just this part of it, right, Rob? Like, do you see plenty enough here to be like, you get a yellow card, you get a red card, you get a suspension, like all kinds of stuff going on there, right?
Well, I mean, any hands to the face in play or outside of play is an automatic banning. So there's plenty of hands to the face going on here from multiple perpetrators on both sides, in fairness, but definitely the instigators, or at least the antagonizers, definitely look to be those ones wearing pink. And do you have something with the history of like spitting and stuff like that?
I do. However, let's another visual from the day, from the evening, from the event. Here is what this is specifically Luis Suarez in his little kerfuffle, little moment with the security. This is the security chief of the Seattle Sounders, by the way. This is the guy in charge of security. Here it is. That's the spit. You see the spit. Now, I will also point out that Luis Suarez, let me rewind this a little bit. Luis Suarez steps on the foot.
I didn't see the footstep. At first, I was like, did the pit spit so strong it threw the man back? But the foot on that's like orchestrated to step on the foot so he couldn't walk away, and then leaned in for the spit.
So eight red cards handed out. But again, this is about more than just a red card, which is a 1-match ban. It could be expanded to 2 matches, I suppose, in some cases. This is whether or not, specifically for this incident, Luis Suarez deserves a much stiffer penalty. I think that's where we're at, Rob. Now, so this is I grabbed this from Football Americas. Actually, Charlie Bone posted it on Blue Sky, and Football Americas put it together. This is the history of Luis Suarez. I don't think anybody doesn't know some of this history, but here you go. Here it is in black and white. He had a biting incident in 2010. He got a 7-match ban. He had the racial abuse event with Patrice Evra when he was at Liverpool. That's an 8-match ban. Now, there is at least, and I'm not trying to excuse his behavior, but there's at least some question over whether or not the Patrice Evra thing was a cultural misunderstanding rather than out-and-out racism. But I think it probably is. I think it is probably racist. That's my opinion on this. I have had plenty of debates with my Spanish-speaking wife over what word he used and whether or not it is a racist word.
So does your wife, your native Spanish-speaking wife, think that it could be a cultural difference, or more like he did the bad thing?
No, she thinks it's more explicable as a cultural difference, that in Spanish-speaking cultures, particularly in Latin America, identifying characteristics are sometimes like almost like a nickname kind of thing. Now, again, I think you have to know the context. And by the way, I don't think that's right. Right, not to be somebody who's telling Spanish speakers in Latin America what to do, but I don't think the way that they use those words is actually good. Like I've had issues with my in-laws and sort of some of the things they say. And again, they don't think it's racism. They think it's just, this is what we do. But that's how racism gets by saying this is just what we do. And I think otherwise my in-laws are wonderful people, but I don't think they should be using certain words. And sometimes it's not necessarily racist. It's just kind of cruel, right? Like everybody who speaks Spanish has heard somebody say gordito. El gordito, to somebody's face. Like, hey, hola, gordito. That, like, fat person. You're saying, hey, fatso. Like, that's a thing. Now, again, Suarez is not a good guy, so probably that's racismo. Now, he had the biting incident with Branislav Ivanovic.
That was the World Cup one, right?
Yeah, that's that. And the World Cup one is, and then he had Chiellini. Then he had the Giorgio Chiellini biting incident in 2014. 9-match international ban. That's the World Cup one.
Okay.
4 months on all matches. Okay. So this is the history. Now he has a track record. Should that apply in this case? I think it probably should. But some people would say maybe just on this one incident. Go ahead.
Yeah, I gotta say, so I'm a Liverpool fan, and I've been a Luis Suarez fan for a very, very long time. And I've been pretty good at separating the art and the artists throughout the whole bit. Like, he is obviously one of the best goal scorers the world has seen, definitely in this era, maybe ever. And sadly, like, without this list that you have on the screen here, I think he might be considered much more in that, the Messi, Ronaldo, and that sort of echelon, but he's maybe like tuckered down a level or two, only simply because I think maybe because he's from a small country, but also because of this behavior. And if you see the last incident that he was punished for over 10 years ago, so I was trying to be positive, and maybe he's turned over a new leaf, and he's just such an amazing soccer player. But all these things that are listed here were examples of him being a spastic competitor, absolutely just a psychopathic competitor. And these things all seem to be born from frustration, from the competitiveness being like an explosion of that when things, I bet in all of these incidences, his team was losing or it wasn't going well. And he just did a absolute competitive spaz out. Like his personality would not allow for a loss to exist in his brain. And he just lashes out.
No, but you can't have that, right? If you
can't, obviously not. I mean, 10 years later, here he goes. He's getting in an elderly gentleman's face. And besides all that other argy-bargy,
not elderly, but yes, I understand what you're saying.
His senior for sure.
Okay, all right. Luis Suarez is just, I mean, if Joey Barton had Luis Suarez's talent, Joey Barton has some legal stuff too, but
he didn't put a cigar in anyone's eyeball, Suarez.
Well, that's true. Okay. Well, we don't, but see, here's the thing. We also don't know everything Luis Suarez has done because we can't know. Right. What I'm saying is there's probably stuff that hasn't been publicized. Now, when it comes to the league and Don Garber being involved, Tim Holtz put this on Blue Sky in response to Tom Bogert writing this up. Could MLS get involved here, even though it's a Leagues Cup issue? And obviously you can see Tom was pointing out that Mike Petke got 3 games for a Leagues Cup outburst at a referee. That was, I think, the one that I think he called him a name. I think he used a slur in Spanish, Mike Petke, when that happened. Clint Dempsey got the 3-game suspension for ripping up the referee's notebook in the US Open Cup game, the one they call Red Wedding or Red Card Wedding up there in Seattle. That was against the Timbers. So there is some precedent, right? Outside of the competitions that MLS doesn't administers, things happen, and then they added suspensions, right? Okay. So Tim actually has from the CBA, and I'm going to make it bigger so you can see it, on-field misconduct, because this is on the field. This is in the CBA that says MLS can punish a player for on-field conduct even when it's not an MLS competition, right? In or around the stadium or playing facility involving any persons, blah, 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 including but not limited to the playing field, locker room, stands, all this stuff. Basically, they're covering themselves, saying you cannot bring the rules into disrepute or the league into disrepute. You can't make the league look bad, right? Any misconduct that occurs in any stadium or playing facility. It doesn't matter. It doesn't say MLS game or it doesn't say that. It says MLS. It's a stadium or playing facility, which obviously this was. So that's the question here, Rob, is will the league use the CBA to punish Luis Suarez for what he did in Seattle? And if they do, what should that punishment be? And for me, you spit, you're trying to prevent somebody from leaving your personal space by stepping on their foot. Right, you're obviously instigating otherwise. We already saw that video. I think this is Luis Suarez done for MLS. I'm talking about months, and if he's done for months, then Miami shouldn't hold on to him, and Miami should be the one. Like MLS should punish him absolutely. MLS should put a ban on Luis Suarez, but Inter Miami, if you have any principles whatsoever, should be canceling his contract. They should be like, "Thank you, Luis, for what you've done for us. Get out. You're done."
Wow, that is probably the harshest end of the spectrum. I doubt. I mean, there's a lot of commenters on various platforms, including here right now in our show, thinking that Inter Miami is going to get the slap on the wrist treatment and not get any sort of excessive bans. I'm with you in the sense that there should be some harsh punishments, and you're saying even as far as we don't see Suarez in pink again. Is that what you're intimating here?
Absolutely. And look, okay, as some people are saying, in various places, this would be assault, right? This would be a criminal offense, and he should be charged with something. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen in Washington State, And we do this thing where and somebody was talking about hockey earlier, that hockey players sign a waiver so they can do criminal things on the ice, which is like fighting, which is in most cases going to get you arrested in a hockey game, not a thing that you get arrested for. We kind of accept this, right? We kind of accept that when you're on the field, there are things that maybe go on beyond the pale, but are not criminal or not treated as criminal. Occasionally it does happen, right? Obviously, Malice at the Palace type stuff is beyond even that. That's what this is, though, right? How is this not? I mean, I understand it's not fans getting involved or being involved by Suarez, but that's a civilian, for lack of a better word. That's not somebody you're supposed to be doing. Like, if you're like on a competitive environment and that guy's my opponent, and I'm very mad at him, and I do things that might constitute assault in some places, we might be able to say, okay, fine, heat of the moment, competition, et cetera, et cetera. But not this. I mean, and spitting is about as gross a thing as you can do to another human being in a public situation.
And it's continued too. Like, oftentimes, you just lost, you're coming for a handshake and you're just like, screw you, buddy. And people kind of get, a little bit of argy-barging, grappled up, and then someone takes a breath and you just move on and it's nothing. But this was continued, like, specifically after Vargas, and then one after another. And then what was that? That moment with the spitting moment was many minutes after the whistle by then. So that was continued. And that gentleman, I'm assuming here, was probably trying to diffuse the situation and was like a, hey, calm down, buckaroo sort of a character in all this.
Probably. Yeah, I do think he maintained his composure, which is obviously part of his job. So
he wasn't screaming in Suarez's face by any means. That all the clips show him holding his ground.
Yeah, and I actually did see, I think it was Seth Vertelny over at Pro Soccer Wire, and I encourage you to go support Seth and what he's doing at Pro Soccer Wire. But he actually had a story that the guy said something like that. This head of security for the Sounders said something like, "I'm just glad he didn't bite me." Like, which is really that's about the best response to this situation you could have, is to say, I'm so glad he didn't bite me. I know that sucks that he spit on me, but at least he didn't bite me because he's Luis Suarez. That's very funny. Very funny situation.
Yeah, it's not bridge too far. So you're thinking Thursday, maybe we see something. So maybe by the time we come back on Friday, we'll get the answer to this big question. What punishments will be handed down? Will it be just like an arbitrary 2-3 games? Will it be the rest of the season? And will it have more repercussions? Is this the beginning of the end of the Messi-Yami experiment? I mean, or is this just like a bump in the road? We shall see. And it was a funny moment you talked about the hockey thing. I had a little bit of a prior career in minor league hockey, and one of the signs before the players enter the locker room, and then again when they enter the ice, is you can't get in a fight with the crowd. They might be antagonized, but you will lose contracts and all other privileges if you get in a fight with the crowd. So that is in the sphere of consciousness in the hockey world. But they might even have one in soccer. I mean, ever since the Eric Cantona thing back in the 90s, they could have that in the soccer locker rooms. I'm not sure.
I want to throw in just this is a little extra bit of spice. We're done with this thing about the after the game and Suarez and all this. But then we also had things happening outside.
This is a head shaker here.
What is going on here? Like,
the streets of Seattle getting crazy here.
I mean,
there's a lady there.
Poles to like beat people, and there's stuff being thrown. I mean, first of all,
white shirt guy's brave here. He's just like front row seat here.
Walk away. Just walk away. This is so stupid. I mean, I know that's like the most dad thing to say, but come on, just walk away.
What's the upside there? What is being gained? What is being gained?
Absolutely nothing. No, absolutely nothing. We're not cosplaying hooligans. Okay, let's stop doing that.
Well, us not here on the show, but certainly there on the mean streets of Seattle, some shenanigans going on there. Before our final segment of the day, hit subscribe, become a member, hit the super thanks, and support us as best as you can. And if you can't throw in some Dollarooskies, just tell your friends. If you like talking soccer, talking American-centric soccer, we are working towards becoming one of the town squares of soccer in America, the soccer conversation in America. So tell your friend about Morning Kickaround, Robert Kerr, Jason Davis, 3 times a week and on demand on the YouTubes. All right, let's move along. Final segment of Wednesday. United States soccer is weird here on Morning Kickaround. Hello, this is American Soccer Being Weird here on Morning Kicker. I'm Robert. He's Jason. We want to touch on a kind of a, I don't even know what the mood of this article is after reading it. But Matt Crocker, one of the big wigs of the United States Soccer Federation, is trying to understand the youth soccer system still. He was profiled by athletic senior writer Jeff Reuter. And he's really trying to get his head around it. The story articles notes that he kind of had a listening tour, trying to figure out the grievances and whatnot.
This is a Henry Bushnell joint. I shout out to Jeff Reuter, who does great work, but this is a Henry Bushnell joint.
Excuse me, forgive me.
Proper credit what it's due. Very much encourage you to read this story if you are an athletic subscriber, which is the only thing I keep. One of the few, whatever. I have an electric subscription exactly for this kind of stuff. And Henry has just joined The Athletic, and he's dropping these long pieces on deep dive stuff. What's the upshot here? That Matt Crocker is confused? Because we're all confused. We're all lost. I think maybe what I take away from this most, Rob, I get where Matt is coming from. Like I think we've all had some issues so far with Matt's leadership. Right. The rehiring of Greg Berhalter is number one on the list of crimes for a lot of people around American soccer, U.S. men's national team fans. How could you have done that? He is clearly a methodology guy, right? He's clearly a guy that likes to, do research and hook guys up to machines to figure out what their, what their talents are, whatever he does, taking long tests. I think there was like testing done for the guys who were up for the U.S. men's national team job. And so he's clearly a guy who's very methodical in his approach. And I think that's frustrating him in this, because what he's seeing is, obviously it's kind of obvious. So you're taking on a job that is much bigger than the job in England that he had, right? Just about geographically, just population, like whatever. Like it's an insane thing to think about, but think about this. There are probably more soccer fans in America than there are in almost any country in the world outside of China and India. But that's just because of population, not because we care about the game at the same level as England or France or Germany or Spain. We just have 350 million people. So we have this vast landscape of things. And Matt is like, oh, this is like a Gordian knot. Like, what do you do with this? And he, instead of like, what he said in the story is, sort of instead of dictating, which has kind of always been the U.S. soccer way, here's your curriculum. Do these things. You're required to teach this. And people will be like, screw you. I know soccer. I'm not doing your stuff. I don't want to follow that. He's saying, let's just kind of nudge in certain areas. Let's not dictate. Let's be a little softer with our touch. Is that a takeaway from this?
Yeah. The article by Harry Bushnell describes that Matt Crocker's approach has been a listening tour and trying to hear as many voices from the youth soccer system from across the country. They called it a listening tour. And kind of some of his takeaways. This is kind of why I wanted to talk about this, as this quote, just to show how far away he is from really getting his arms around it.
But that's the thing. Will he ever? And again, it's not. I don't want to. It's never a throw up your hands and say, we can't do it. Like, it's never like, oh, this is so big of a problem that we shouldn't even try. I never want to get to a place of we shouldn't even try.
Well, but he says 95% of this, he said 5% of this job will be easy to change and tweak, but 95% is a beast that I can't even ... I'm only just trying to beginning to get my head around it. This is something that I've never experienced.
Yeah. And I think, so here again, this are the two sides of the coin, right? Like, we as soccer fans want our country to reach its potential. We want our country to reach its potential. Now, that potential is sort of unknowable, except we have all these kids playing soccer and we have this big country, and we imagine that you should be able, isn't this always the trope? Like, how can we not pick 11 soccer players to go out and beat Trinidad and Tobago? This is insane. Like, why can't we do that? But this is obviously, as Matt is presenting, such a complicated problem, such a or complicated scene of soccer in America that it's never like if you drill down, sometimes we have this fantasy too. Like if we had a California national team, would they be better than the U.S. men's national team? I think it's a reasonable question, right? Or New
There's an
Jersey.
argument to be had there, yeah.
Yeah, New Jersey, right? If you just pick players from New Jersey, could you put together a team that is as good as the team we put out that represent the entirety of the United States of America? And like, it kind of seems silly, like, oh, but you wouldn't have Pulisic or you wouldn't have players from Texas or what. But in terms of the culture and and we talk like we're getting ready to go to New Mexico and go to Albuquerque and celebrate a specific version of American soccer culture from a fan perspective, not from a player perspective. But imagine that, the player thing, just variations spread across the country. Like I appreciate that Matt Crocker is saying what is true, that this is huge, that this is complicated, that it's not easy to get your hands around, rather than have somebody come in and say, man, I don't know how to, I don't like I know exactly what we should do. Like there have been plenty of charlatans in American soccer who have said, oh, I know exactly what we should do. We should do X, Y, or Z. Apply this standard and we'll be world champions. Project 2010 was that. Right. And no disrespect to Carlos Quiroz or anybody who worked on that. It was ambitious and it was an attempt, but it was never realistic. Like nobody thought really we were going to get to 2010 and win a World Cup, but we thought we had to have a plan. We had to organize this. And man, I don't know, like what is the answer when you are dealing with so much diversity in this?
So, I mean, okay, so the travails that Matt Crocker is facing is the scope and the size of the country. Every single, like the part of the article says that so one could visit every single youth association in the UK within a 2-week period. He's been doing it for 7 months and hasn't gotten to nearly everybody yet. And every single location has their own motivation. So there's different sanctioning bodies, different leagues, and then different leagues within the same regions sanctioned by different groups. And so there is not only a tangled web on these locations, but the web is huge and wide spanning from coast to coast.
And again, like there's sort of like, what is the, like, to what end would you change anything? And obviously you can't, right? You can't force these clubs and leagues to all pull in the same direction. You can't force them to do it. The best you can do is suggest. And part of the story, at the end of the story, the kicker here is actually about this listening tour, but Crocker presenting a year ago something called the U.S. Way. The U.S. Way is a shared philosophy, a strategy, and a practical toolkit to enable excellence at every level of the game and for us to win. It talks about how 95% of player development happens within the club system and that those are the critical environments. And then there's 3 prongs to this: world-class development pathways and environments with talent ID and youth national teams, etc. Shared and scaled infrastructure, which involves the training center that they built in Atlanta, a digital platform, a unified youth calendar, and professional development for the entire ecosystem. And then formal classes, formal courses, technical and administrative staff, community building, etc. But if you read the article, there are people who are directly involved, including Mike Colina, the CEO of U.S. Club Soccer and a U.S. Soccer board member, who said, this is not a plan. It's a presentation. It's not a plan. Like, words on paper is lovely, he says, but unless you can operationalize it, unless you can get the buy-in necessary, that's it. It really isn't going to have any impact. So, what is your capability here? Like, how far can you push this to make U.S. soccer American soccer all pull in the same direction? Now, there are also people who would say things are changing. Matt Crocker has brought new enthusiasm and a new approach. And even if we're not sure that this is a plan, they've been proactive. They've been communicating. So perhaps this is the first step, right? Perhaps this is just sort of like, we're not going to jump from here to winning a World Cup in 4 or 8 years. But what Matt Crocker wants to do is get us talking and moving in the same direction. Again, if everybody feels like they are involved in this, because that's what soccer people and really anybody who has their little corner of the world does, they protect it. And if you come in and say, well, we want to do stuff to your corner, you're no, screw you. It's my corner. I'm in charge here. So how do you get those people to say, okay, fine, I want to engage with you. I want to be involved. I want to see us as an American soccer nation succeed. And that means giving up just a little bit of my control or accepting that you're going to influence the direction of the thing I am doing.
At the very least, Crocker is acknowledging that it hasn't gone right before, because United States Soccer Federation hasn't always admitted mistakes or a bad approach. And I know from my experience in youth soccer, the only time you hear anything from the federation is when they, make some decree. And I think in the article, they describe it as a lightning bolt from above comes down and, says deal with these changes and moves on, and isn't necessarily a supportive or receptive organization. So Elise Crocker is accepting that feedback and acknowledging that. But beyond all those challenges of the size and the, conflicting interests and financial motivations of various organizations, leagues, and whatnot, but he is also challenged with having a soft touch of ingratiating this new approach and these, because there is new decrees on the youth game being set down from above now, but so he is trying to instill change with a softer touch, with the intermingled web of interests still above. So it is quite the task ahead of him. Not one that I would like, but one I would love to see him succeed, is because you feel like we have this untapped ability or untapped population. And there's no doubt, I don't think anyone even tries to doubt that there's players and development opportunities filling through the cracks. But as part of the title for this article says it's an astronomical ask.
Yeah.
Of
astronomical.
Both astronomical of both the folks trying to lead it and the folks on the ground trying to implement it and produce a top player. I think an interesting side note was that the top 150 players on the women's side is slowly trickling down, and according to this, never produced a top 50 player. So
on the men's game. Yeah. That, I mean, I don't know. Nobody disputes that. It's just a matter of, is it possible to, again, through the direction of U.S. soccer, is it possible to get there? Or is this just going to have to be sort of a chaos approach? Is American soccer just always going to be a chaos approach to this? And if we do get there one day, it's going to be because the culture improves on its own, not because U.S. soccer is sort of dictating how to build players.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And we will, of course, follow this as, we go along our timeline in the development of American soccer. But that about does it for the show. But I do want to re-announce again our big announcement that we led the show off with. September 13th, myself, Jason Davis, and Morning Kick Round will be live on location for the 6th edition of the Meow Wolf Night, New Mexico United's big game. They unfurl a specialty jersey. They have a huge carnival and a whole day full of festivities, a whole weekend full of festivities. We'll be getting on site there on Friday, doing our Friday show. We'll be at the party where fans meet staff and have a party with the new shirts. And then Saturday, the main event, we will be doing a live show from Isotopes Park on September 13th. We're going to have lots of great guests, going to talk to a lot of great people, and hopefully feature lots of great costumes and feature this unique event in American soccer to the best of our ability.
Yeah, absolutely. Tune in. First of all, if you can be in Albuquerque, come see us. But if you can't, tune in to see just how much taller Rob is than me, because I think that's going to be one of the subplots of this event, is that Rob is so much taller than I am, and it's going to be quite the visual. All right. But I mean, I'm obviously so excited. Just to reiterate, what we need from you is just to share the word, just to spread this out, to let people know something cool is happening in Albuquerque on September 13th, that we're going to be there for Meow Wolf Night, that you're going to get on the scene live stream of the event, talking to the owner of New Mexico United. They're working on a stadium in Albuquerque, Rob. So hopefully we get some insight. We get to talk to Peter and the people over there about the stadium plans that they have, because what stadiums are roots in the ground for American soccer teams, and we need roots in the ground.
Yeah, we don't want American soccer to just be blown away by the wave of a pen or anything like that. And, having infrastructure, such a stadium, so important. So many going up around the country, including where we will be live on September 13th, Isotopes Park, live and on location for Meow Wolf Night. Can't wait for that. Only 9 days away, Jason. Can you believe it? 9 days away. We will be in New Mexico.
9 days. A lot of work to do. I gotta get going. I gotta get all this stuff together, Rob. We gotta get out of here.
All right. So can't wait to do that. Thank you so much for the opportunity. New Mexico United. Can't wait to be there for Meow Wolf Night. Do we have anything before we want to go here today?
No, I don't. I believe that's it. Luis Suarez, ban him. Yeah. Congratulations, Seattle Sounders. Collin County, what league are you going into? All these are. Oh, okay. We do want to actually get to one other thing. I forgot about this. Thank you, Rob. You reminded me now. We do want to highlight all of our members.
Yes. Thank you so much, everybody.
Channel. Yeah, David R., Todd Brooks, Eddie Hooper, Thomas Donnelly, Spencer Doherty, Tim Weaver, Shiny Blue Bead, Faith and Logic, Seeing Red, the New York Soccer Podcast, Alan Jacobson, Crispy Dew, 44, A Homeless Shoe, Pam at 53, Chris Sow, Jay Hunt, Ron Bandish, Brian Toto, Alex Murch, Zachary Kaiser, Tom Opp, Aaron Pimentel, Aaron, you tell me how to say that properly, Ryan, Parker Smith, Tulsa Mario, Penzoni 343, Soccer Night in Detroit, Harry Austin, Luke Zagorski, the DK in PHL, Angus McWhorter, Mike Thomas, Nate Osika. You guys are the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Can't thank you enough. And we will be back live on Friday right here. Same place, same time. And until then, everybody, enjoy your soccer.